is Jules. Long time no chat. Life has been crazy the past couple months. Moved to a new city, moved to a new place, got my entire room set up, got settled in here. But I just wanted to chat about a book I just finished. It's called Calling Invisible Woman by Jeanna. It is an amazing book. It's not a 5-star read for me, unfortunately. There are some things that I feel are more nitpicky that I did take a star off, and it being maybe like a 4.5. But it is about this woman Clover who she is typical suburban housewife with kids grown up. One is in college, one went to college, had some financial struggles, moved back in. Her daughter husband is never really around. He has his own practice. He works with children, so she feels bad, and she just feels like she's not appreciated, and then she turns literally invisible. And it's about her story trying to come to terms with that, and then realizing that her family doesn't notice that she is literally see through. Um, it was a great book. I really did enjoy it. Clover as a character is not someone that I really relate to. Not someone who's been in a long term relationship. Not someone who has kids. I'm not going to probably ever be the typical housewife for anybody, but it was just a really good read. And as the story progresses, you find out that it is not just kind of like a psychological thing where, a woman has gone invisible because her family doesn't see her, but this is a combination of drugs. It is a drug company called Dexter White who's responsible, and it is a very specific combination that really only affects women, premenopausal women that would probably be in this range. So it is for bone density, which a lot of old people get. And then it is a pre-menopausal drug to try to help reduce hot flashes, and then a small dose of an antidepressant, and then mixed with if they've ever had Botox in their life for headaches, for lip filler, cheek filler, whatever, it turns some of these women invisible. Not all of them, as they later find out. The drug company actually knew that invisibility was a side effect and still pushed all the drugs on the market together. But they are only really in that combination ever prescribed to women, past 40 who probably fall into this very specific category. Um, it is very much you have to suspend your disbelief because these people literally don't see these women are not there. They can see their clothes, they can hear their voices, but they just don't notice that their face isn't there. And then a drug company turning women invisible. I do really like the book because it doesn't focus on that. I saw a lot of the other reviewers complain. They were like, it doesn't really make sense, and this could be like a chance to talk about the corporations, but I feel like that kind of like is the antithesis of the book. This book is talking about women who are often overlooked in everyday life. They have problems. They are, reaching an age where their body is changing, and especially in a society where aging is so stigmatized, they are all having problems with depression. The drug for depression is always in a super small dose, which tends to happen when you just need to cheer up a little bit. Get your life back in you. Like it feels like if it focused on the evil drug company, then that would kind of be the same that happens to these women. Like the drug company pushes this out despite knowing the side effects because they only care about money. They don't see these women. These women are unseen in their everyday lives. People just glance over them. So a lot of women, it happens to them. People just do not see elder people, especially elderly women, on the same, I want to say, stage as people of a certain younger age. So I did like how it focused on the actual story, Clover's actual story, and the other invisible women. She ends up meeting a support group of women who are also going through this, and then throughout the book, she kind of finds, I want to see 3 other more invisible women and one formerly invisible woman. That was the first case they ever had of someone coming back from invisibility. And I did like how they did it. So the most of these people are white, middle class women, very waspy, uh, and that kind of adds to it because, as we know, especially in these outer parts of America, where if you're not in a big city, you're probably living in a suburban environment. You don't really have a community besides your immediate family. These women don't know that there are other invisible women for a long time. Clover thinks that she's the only one, and there's a certain sense of shame in there because She feels like she's the only one experiencing this. She's of a certain age. This feels just like her husband not noticing her. She says she feels invisible, and people just think that she's talking about, you know, a non-literal example. Like her husband isn't, talking to her, which is also the truth. Um, so she really keeps to herself. She doesn't advocate for herself, and that's what happens when we, split up into these tiny family secular places where you don't have a community to advocate for you. You don't have a community to empower you to stand up for yourself. And it's only through meeting these other women going through similar life circumstances that Clover really steps up. She is a former reporter. Um, Now she just does a gardening article, and she really steps up and she takes these women who were kind of, they were trying to figure it out, but there wasn't really a way that they were able to take action, and they made it happen. Clover really pushed them forward, and not only that, she was pushed forward by other invisible women. Even when I thought it kind of reached to the end of her character point, where I thought this is kind of where like she's gonna stagnate for the last little bit. Another invisible woman, her daughter's boyfriend's mom, who is an invisible woman, showed up and pushed her even further. It was just really beautiful to see it, because it really is part of that culture. Is when you are an aging white housewife in suburbia, you don't have anyone but your family most of the time. You're not working now with work from home. Even if you are working, sometimes you're not seeing these people. You don't really have a way to reach out and get community in any other way. So it was them building community and letting them empower themselves. It's not just, oh, I talked to my husband and now I feel better. The book also kind of lacked, I don't want to say a true villain. The drug company was a villain, but when it turns, the family part of it, because a part of this was just her family doesn't see her. It doesn't make excuses for anybody, I will say, but it also doesn't make it unrealistic. Her husband is a children's pediatrician in a very small practice. He is not faking that he is busy as fuck. It's not that he's like out having an affair. She follows him. She wants to see his day. She even says, I don't know how he does this every day. Of course he comes home exhausted. This is what he goes through every day. But at the same time, it doesn't make him this hero figure that just because, he's out saving and helping children, that he is, allowed to kind of disregard his wife. Multiple people call him out on that, even his own mother. Um, because not only he wants someone to fix the problem for him, is what she says. He knows what to do, but he just wants someone else to take care of it. And then it shows his low points. He, while saying that he wants to see his wife more, stays after work and dreams about this fairy tale life that they'll have after the kids are all gone. Which I think a lot of people who have kids, it's hard raising kids, especially in today's society. So it's like, once they're all gone, we can do this. We can finally go to do the things we want to do. And he's starting to realize that that's not really possible right now. So that's kind of pushing his dreams back. But at the same time, it's not like the kids are really at fault. Her son Nick, he was, on track at school. He was a teacher. Budget cuts happened. He got fired. He's not able to find another job. This is, today's society. Sometimes jobs are hard to come by. He's going out. He's applying. It's not like he's sitting around doing nothing. Her daughter, who we don't really get to see a lot of, or really much as a redeeming character, is a teenage girl in her freshman year of college. She's not really taking an active role in this family. She's not taking part of this family because she's trying to go on that path to adulthood and that path to independence. And even the first contact that they have at the pharmaceutical company, Dr. Holt, they don't make excuses for him. I kind of thought the book was going to do the thing where it's like, oh, he didn't really reach out, but at least he was trying. But no, they were like, no, you waited too long. How long did you know these women were, turning invisible, and you're just turning a blind eye to that? So, and even with Clover, it kind of points out her own flaws. She even says, I know this is a marriage. It shouldn't be about me testing you to see if I'm pure or not. So I feel like it's a good character balance. Everyone had pretty reasonable motivations. No one was like this horrendous villain or something. The only thing is, the drug company wanted to make money, and even that, it was the board members. It's not even people that we even really saw. Beyond that, it was just a lot of like really good lines. There's one. Let me read it. This is more about the invisible work that women do, especially housewives, and It's just the mother-in-law saying they've trained themselves not to notice things because the less they notice, the more we'll just take care of it for them. And that's kind of where this whole thing is. They don't. It doesn't matter that she's invisible because they've trained themselves not to see it. They train themselves not to see the housework. They train themselves not to see what needs to be done, who needs to be called, all that. And I think it kind of goes back to like the early 2000s where there was, all that media and all those shows and, this dystopian fiction about, this AI house being like a mother figure because mom doesn't need a body. She just needs to take care of the house. So she's this kind of this omnipotent, presence that just represents home, but that literally strips them of their personhood. And I think that's what a lot of like early AI, was trying to say. And it kind of came back to this where it's like, you just kind of represent the house. You're not even a person in a lot of people's eyes. You're just home. And that is kind of sweet, but also mainly it's just, dehumanizing in a very literal sense. Uh, but I did not, there's some parts of the story I didn't like. The other women in the support group, they talked about, their old jobs, blah, blah, blah. And they went to a school, and for the most part, it was pretty good, but it kind of, I wish the author had touched on this more. This, who, when they, they have these powers basically, but that doesn't mean they're good people, or doesn't mean their morals are always right. It's not always, a black and white. She stops kids from smoking weed and acts like it is like heroin, black tar heroin they're about to inject into their veins. She stops her adult son from getting a tattoo. It's like, whose morals are we following in this? And just because, you know, it's her and she's the one that's invisible doesn't mean she's always right. And she even admits that. She's like, I shouldn't have been following you. I should have, have been having more conversations with you. But I wish they had touched on that a little bit more, just because, it is waspy women who this mostly is happening to. So it is their morals that they are basically putting out there. Um, Also, the pacing was a little bit weird. I know I said I didn't want them to focus super a lot on like the drug aspect, the drug company aspect of it, but it just, I felt like there could have been like, the resolution of the book felt very rushed. I feel like we could have like shortened the middle, kind of spread out the end of it, or added some more pages. It is a very fast book, I will say that, which was kind of nice. I got through it really quickly, and I saw all the other reviews did too. But it was kind of rushed at the end. I wish there was like more, details and stuff like that. But that is what it is. Let's see what else. Yep, I think I already touched on everything in that last point, which is the suspension of disbelief, which it is kind of hard, someone's literally invisible. But I read this more as like, I think I was in the right section when I read it, because I saw a lot of people, I think they read it as more like literal, not literal, as what am I trying to say? I don't know. I think they thought it was going to be like more like women who literally like, aren't seen, but are actually visible. And I read this more as like a sci-fi novel, where if there's a drug company that can make someone invisible, why can't there be? Why maybe someone would notice? Who knows? And then I think there's this one more thing. They touched on it earlier. Gilda, who is Clover's best friend, is a bigger part in the beginning of the story, but she also pops up later. And I just wish there was a little bit of a resolution to their storyline, because it feels like Gilda just kind of fell off as a character. And they talked about going to Florida together and how they went to Florida one time and their trip got cut short because, as mothers, they were needed. It was one of her children was mildly sick and she had to go. And they talked about wanting to go back. And I wish we could have seen, maybe not them, there, but I bought plane tickets. We're on the bus, whatever. I wish I could have seen that. But overall, it was a really good book. This also came off of, I read The Finders, which is a mystery novel, and I absolutely hated it. I wrote, I think, like 4 pages worth of a review on Storygraph, and it was just all scathing. I was like, I wish I could be nicer, but I read it for a book club, and I would have DNF'd it if it wasn't for the book club. But I got to the point where I was like, no, I want to go and complain about this book. And then I got there, and the book club was canceled, and I was so pissed. But this was definitely a next great story. I am a little bit behind on my reading. Moving did do that to me. So I now have, I think I need 18 more books to catch up to my reading goal. but I've already finished 21 books this year. This is already way more than I did last year. So I'm actually pretty content with where I am right now. Um, that's the thing with my reading goal. I knew it was pretty lofty to have, a 52 book reading goal, but I wanted to do it because I was like, oh, that's a nice number, a book a week. But sometimes reading weeks just aren't that good. Right now, we've been plowing through books, so I'm catching up a little bit. But I definitely won't be mad if I don't read another book by the end of the year, which I'm pretty sure I will. But this is definitely way more than I've read before, and I'm really enjoying it. I did go a little bit crazy with the book buying. This, isn't totally like all just from after the move, but I do want to get through a lot of that. However, I have just been reading like library books recently. I don't know. Every time I get up on this shelf, I'm like, I just not feeling it, not feeling it. But now that I have my Kindle, which I got for free, so like I don't know, I think I appreciate it more because I'm like, oh, I got this for free, so I want to use it because it was a gift. So I got Kindle Unlimited. I've been finishing some stories on there. And I have the Libby app, so I've been reading a lot of library books on here as well. So I think I do want to get through my shelf because one of my reading goals for this year is to get my TBR shelf down to 30 books. Um, will that happen? Probably not, but I want to, at least work on it. How I have it set up is like, you can't see it, but there's also more over here. These are all the books I have read. This stack here, this stack, and this stack. The only thing is, like, some of these are reference books. Like, most of these are, like, textbooks of mine, school books, stuff like that. And then I also have like my Japanese learning books over here. So it's not like not all of these are like books I've like completely read, but it's more like books that I'm not a novel that I'm going through page by page. And then I have two stacks of four over there, which is my TBR. I am running out of room. I do need to get some more shelves because some of these I have read. And I just like, don't have room to move them over. But I'm hoping I can get through a lot of these. Some of them are manga, so they do read pretty fast. And then some of them I'm pretty sure I'm not gonna read this year. Like I was really excited to read Harry Potter again. I got those first three books at Goodwill, and then I'm just like I don't want to read it. But I do have some good ones to get through. I am very excited to see how far I get by the end of the year. My new problem is because I've moved up and going to way more bookstores, and Chicago just has so many different independent ones. And so I want to go, and once I go to a bookstore, I'm buying a book. But I think I will be able to get through a good chunk of them. I read a couple hard ones that, like, not hard, like, they were hard to read, but hard to get through. I finally read No Longer Human by Osamu Dazai, and I think I just needed a little bit of a break after that from reading these sad ass books I keep on my shelf. Uh, Even though the library books I read are not much happier, but it is what it is. I don't know why it feels different when it's a library book, but I'm getting through them slowly. I've been reading a lot, reading a lot, reading a lot, trying to finish books. So I'm getting there. I think I want to start making videos again, just to keep myself accountable. But who knows?